I was hunched over my laptop in a crowded coffee shop, typing away when a woman in her 60s stepped up to my table. She held out a trembling hand and asked, "Can I borrow your charger for a minute? I left mine at home." I glanced up surprised and nodded. Sure. The shop was loud with espresso and chatter, and my charger sat coiled across the table like a little lifeline. I slid it over and went back to my screen. She didn't leave. She leaned in close, so close I could feel her breath, and her eyes flicked to mine. "And add me on Instagram and Facebook," she said, "just so we can stay in touch." It landed strangely. A charger is a favor. Follow is a door. But she was smiling and I was raised to be polite, so I fumbled with my phone, found her handle and sent the request. "I'm Karen," she said warmly, shaking my hand like we had just closed a deal. When she finally walked away with my charger, I felt a connection for a second, and then right under it, a low hum of unease I couldn't explain. The messages started that weekend. The first one seemed harmless. "Lovely meeting you. You have such a trustworthy face." The second one came at 6 in the morning. "You were at the shop again on Tuesday. The corner table suits you." I sat up in bed and read that line 4 times. I had not posted anything about Tuesday. She had simply been watching and she wanted me to know it. Then she started commenting on photos from years back, old birthdays, my sister's graduation, one after another, a stranger walking slowly through my life and leaving fingerprints on everything. I kept my replies short and my tone even, and I started paying attention. On Thursday I went back to the coffee shop and the barista, a kid named Marco who has seen everything, waved me over. "The charger lady found you, huh?" he said quietly. "She does it every week. Borrows something small, gets your socials, and in about a month there's an emergency and she needs $500. She got 2 regulars last spring. One of them actually paid. The emergency arrived right on schedule. A long message, full of trembling words, about a medicine she suddenly couldn't afford and a nephew who had abandoned her, and how I was the only kind soul left in the city. She asked for $480, which was somehow more convincing than $500, and she promised to pay it back twice over. I read it twice calmly, the way you study a trap once you already know it's a trap. I didn't argue. I didn't lecture. I wrote back one line. "I hope you find the help you need, Karen, but I won't be sending money." Then I blocked her on both accounts, reported the profile, and did the one thing con artists genuinely hate. I made it public. I posted in the neighborhood group, no insults, just the facts. The charger, the follow request, the 6 a.m. messages, the medical emergency, the exact dollar amount. Within an hour there were 11 replies. 3 said the same thing happened to them word for word down to the trembling hand. One woman admitted she had paid twice, and had been too embarrassed to tell anyone. The group did the rest. Someone printed the thread and gave it to the cafe owner, and Karen was quietly told she was no longer welcome. The 2 people she had taken money from filed a report together, no longer embarrassed, because shame gets lighter the moment you find out you were not the only one. 2 weeks later I was back at my corner table when I saw her outside the window, stopping a young guy with headphones, her hand already trembling on cue. Before I could even stand up, Marco was at the door. The guy looked at her, looked at the printed thread taped by the register, and put his charger back in his bag. She turned and walked off down the street, scanning for a softer table in some other shop. I finished my coffee slowly that afternoon, and it tasted like a small quiet victory. I lend things freely, hold the door, and answer strangers who talk to me, and none of that changed. What changed is that I stopped ignoring the hum. Kindness is a choice and it only works when it never costs you your safety.